Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to look at the SharePoint page template gallery, which was recently introduced. So the page template gallery is essentially a set of pages and layouts that Microsoft have provided us right within our site. We can browse them and then add them with the click of a button, which sounds great in theory, right? And I suppose it is. I think it's a really good addition to give people inspiration in how they can lay out pages in ways they may have not thought to do before. However, I think there's a bit of a caveat with this, and that is these templates, they do look great when you take them in isolation. However, they're full of baked in images for the icons and the custom images that Microsoft have added that have been cropped to funny shapes. So when you take one of these templates and you drop it into a site with an established look and feel or branding style, you might find that they just don't fit. And that will lead you to stripping out these icons and stripping out the images, and then pretty soon you're left with a template which really has lost a lot of the polish and maybe even the reason you selected it in the first place. And that really leads us to the point of this video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can recreate these images, recreate the icons, and basically restyle these templates while keeping the good of the template there. And to demonstrate this, we're going to take 4 templates and then we're going to reimagine them or restyle them to align with the branding of a customer who's hired us, who happens to be the Sith. Now, if you don't know what the hell a Sith is, it's basically they're what we call the bad guys in Star Wars, the guys who wear the hooded cloaks, who go around choking people and generally just cause trouble for all the good guys. So like I said, we're going to take these 4 templates here and we're going to transform them into something that looks a little bit like this, which is a bit darker, ominous, and just in line with the Sith branding, I hope. Otherwise, I might just get choked myself. So this is going to be a build along like all my videos. So I'm going to walk you through step by step how I do this. The best thing is we're not going to use any fancy design packages to create our imagery. We're going to use humble Mr. Old PowerPoint himself, which is actually a very good design tool if you know how to use it with that intention in mind. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Dan Carroll, Microsoft MVP and general person who just really likes to inspire others to do some cool things within SharePoint. So with all that being said, let's get to it. This video is sponsored by me and Academy 365, which is a site where I have a number of courses that will take you from zero to absolute SharePoint hero. These courses are structured to guide you step by step on how to deliver the most common intranet requirements I see day in and day out. Whether you're building a new intranet site or indeed need to uplift and revitalize an existing site, these courses are for you. And the best thing is you don't have to be a techie to take them, right? These courses have been carefully designed so they're accessible to anybody with any level of experience within SharePoint. We have the SharePoint Site Builder Masterclass version 2, which is an updated version of my original flagship course. This course guides you on how to create a typical intranet department site step by step, jam-packed with the most common requirements I see from real-world experience. We also have the SharePoint Training and Education Platform Site course, which will show you how to create amazing educational experiences within SharePoint. Both courses are laser focused on end user experience, so you'll be able to wow your users, your colleagues, and even your bosses. If you're interested, there's a link below along with a tasty discount. Now back to the video. So let's get into our first template. Now before we do that, what we need is a site. So I have a blank communication site that I created here, and all I've done is I've added a custom theme to it and I've put on a font. Now the font and theme, that's going to be up to yourself, whatever branding you have in place. But just to give you a look, if I come up to the cog here and I go into site branding new, this is where you can create your custom themes. I have this theme in here called a Sith theme, and all I've done is simply added a black color and then a secondary red color to it. Within the black color, I've added these combinations by clicking new combination. Straightforward enough, and we've covered that a few times before. So now that we have the basics of the site in place, the foundation of it driven through the brand, what we can do is create our first page template. So I'm going to come up to new and I'm going to go to page. This is going to launch the template gallery. And in here, I want to choose this one in here, our visual topic introduction template, which is all about new employee benefits. So we're going to start off with this template. And what we're going to do, or what we're going to end up is, we're going to have something like this, which is our reimagined version of this with the Sith, which all the good perks and benefits that they offer to their valued employees. So we've got health cover, all the good stuff, flexible working, a wellness initiative, brilliant. We've bonus scheme, annual leave entitlement, professional development, employee recognition, all the good stuff is in here. But really what I'm demonstrating here is how we can reimagine the top section here. So how you can create this kind of effect. We look at this image, which of course is very similar to this image here. We're going to create it in PowerPoint as well. These images, we're going to have our own images and we're going to crop them into these shapes. So we have the look and feel, but with our own visual assets. And we'll also create these icons. So plenty to do, and hopefully you're going to learn something from it. So let's focus on this top section first. So what I'm going to do is I've got this template here. I'm going to say use template, and that's going to deploy it directly into my site. So I mean, at the heart of it, this is really powerful stuff, right? You've got all of this work, all the layout done. All you need to do is to be able to, update it to align with whatever the branding you have. So that's what I'll show you. So up here, we have new employee benefits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out all of this text in here. I'm just going to make this all caps for a bit of standout. So now that we have that in all caps, I'm going to select all the text and I'm going to bring it up to a size of 80. So I will just type 80 in here. And then I want to have the benefits beneath it. And why I have these as two separate text boxes, because I want to be very careful on how I align them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to duplicate this and I will pull this down. And in here, we'll simply type in benefits. I will change the color of this to my brand color that I set up. So we have that in there. So I want the word benefits to take up the same space as new employee. So what I'm going to do is I'll come in here, select the word benefits, and up in here, I'm going to go for 138. Bring that out a little bit, and something like that looks good to me. So now we'll just put in our tagline underneath. So I'll add in a text box. I'll type in benefits. So good you'd think we're hiding something. And what I'll do is I'll just make it a bit bigger and make it bold. And then we can just reposition it down here. Okay, so simple stuff, nothing you haven't seen before, okay? So what we want to do is we want to change the background in here. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to choose properties and then design. And then I'm going to say change background. I come into stock images and there's not a hope I'm going to find that image again, but I'll put in red planet. If I get lucky, no, not in there. I can't remember what I searched for originally. So what I'll do is I'll come into web search and I'll just type in red planet and we'll search the good old web. I'm going to go Creative Commons. I'm going to change that to all because I'm a bit crazy like that. And I might choose something like this. Looks pretty good. Still work. So now we have that in there like that. And what I want to do is I'm going to have another image here, but I still want my text kind of legible. I want to make it a bit darker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the overlay color is going to be a dark gradient and we'll say left to right. And then we can just bring that opacity up a bit. Something like that looks good. Now we want to get the image of Kylo Ren, the guy with the hood, in here standing beside it. So you might do something similar, but you mightn't use a Star Wars character. So if you have an image of somebody or a stock image of a person, but you want to take the background out of it. Now, PowerPoint can't do that just yet, but there's a lot of free resources online that will let you do that. So if you have the image, that's the most important thing. And if you Google remove background, Adobe Express is a result that comes up quite near the top usually, and it's free to use. So you'll just launch that, you'll upload your file and it'll remove your background and then you can download the file. That's effectively the easiest way to do this part. So when you have your cut out image and you want to put it in here, we're going to go to our toolbox up here. We're going to add in an image. I'm going to upload because I have one prepared earlier, which is this ominous looking character. And I'm going to say upload and I'm going to add my image like that. And what I might do is I might just crop this image. So I'm going to go to crop, freeform. I'm just going to remove that bit from the side, pull in this bit from the side, and I probably only need them from, say, the knees. So I'll do that. It comes in something like that. And then you can just play around with the spacing and where you want to put it. But I think that looks good for now. Happy with that. So now coming down to this section here. Okay, so we have this image. So if you want to recreate this image, I always find that it's handiest to work from the existing image. So a handy way to get a copy of this image to easily download it, okay, is going to be if you select the image and you come up to advanced editing. If you click that, you don't have to change anything on the image, but just click save, say save as copy. That's done its thing in the background. And what we can now do is we can save and close this page because we're going to get that image and download it effectively. So now that we've done that, we can go into the site assets. We can come to this page and we can download the image. So you're going to come up here to the cog. You're going to go to site contents. You're going to go to site assets. So any assets we add to the page will live in site assets in a folder called site pages. So we'll come in here and we've got this page one that we just created because I haven't given it a title yet. So I'll pop in here. And if I stick this into a tiles view, I'll see all of the images that I have. And there's the one that we just created. So I'm going to select that image and I'm going to say download. So now we have the source image. Now we can see exactly the sizes and the proportions that we want to work with. So when you've downloaded your image, now we want to open up PowerPoint. This is where we're going to create or edit any of the images that we're going to use on our site. So blank presentation opened up here. I'm going to say insert. I'm going to say pictures. I'm going to say picture from file. And I'm just going to insert that image that we downloaded. Because there's some white elements in this image that we can't really see, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the slide and I'm going to go to design, format background, and I'm just in solid fill. I'm going to change that to a slight gray color. And now I can see that white ring that I know was there. So now that we have this, this is what we want to work from. So in PowerPoint, it's really all about shapes, especially in what we're doing. So what we want to do is we want a shape that's going to be this size, okay? And we need 3 of them because we're going to have 3 kind of image placeholders. So I'm going to say insert, I'm going to come up to shape. I'm going to choose this rounded rectangle. And what I can do is just roughly draw it in here to the size that we think we want. Then you can drag it out here. And this little yellow little handle here, drag it all the way to the right, and that gives us that shape there. And then we can align that with the top there and align that with the bottom. So that's effectively the shape that we're going to need to crop our images to. So I'm just going to copy and paste that again. So we'll have it here, copy and paste again, and we'll have it here. So now you want to start to bring the images in that you want to pop into these placeholders. So I have my random images here. So what I'll do is I'll just move this fella out of the way, this fella out of the way, and we'll start with this guy here. So really you just want to get it roughly in position. So I'm going to scale it down a bit. And learning how to work with the different layers or the order of the shapes in PowerPoint is important when you're doing this kind of thing. So what you want to do is if you go to Arrange, and then you come down here to Selection Pane, these are all of the layers that we have in here. For example, if I click this one here, I see it's picture 13. Now you can double click these and rename them if you want. I won't bother for now, but I can hide this guy so he's not in the view. This guy is a duplicate in here, so we get rid of him. This guy over here, we can see it's selected. I'll hide that. And we see here we have our 3 rounded rectangle shapes, okay? So this one here, I'm going to pull it up to the top. And this is just so I can position it nicely. So when I have that rounded rectangle there, I can right click and I can select Format Shape. That's going to give me this panel up here. And just for positioning, what I might do is I'll just play with the transparency and I can see exactly what's going to be in that shape when I crop it. And that means that I can reposition it just the way I want it. So I'll select my shape. I'll bring that transparency back down. We don't want the line, so I'll say no line. And back in our selection pane, when we're cropping image to a shape, the order in which we do things is important, okay? So I have this image here. I want to bring the image up to the top. So it's on top of the rectangle that we're going to use to cut it out, basically. So what I'll do is I'll select my picture and then I'll select my rectangle. You can hold Shift and you'll get them both selected. So select the picture first, then the rectangle. Then I'm going to come up here. I'll see a shape format option. And we have an option here to play around with the shapes, basically. So I'll select that down and I'll say intersect because I want to basically keep the bit where the image and the shape overlap. So I'll say intersect. And now we get our guy cut out and he looks nice. So we just repeat that process over here. So we'll do the next one. So I'll unhide my picture of Vader up here. You can see this is my rounded rectangle. I just bring it on top for a sec. So I can come to Format Shape, change the transparency, and then we can size the picture so it fits nicely. Something like that looks pretty good. Select the shape. Reduce the transparency again, remove that line. I'll come to my selection pane and I'll bring my picture above my rectangle. Make sure my picture is selected first. Then I'll hold Shift, select my rectangle, and then again, shape format, and then intersect. And then you just do the exact same thing with the last one. And then we get this in here like this. I know it feels like a lot of steps, but once you do it a few times, it'll be second nature to you. You'll be fine. So then the last thing we want to do is we want this white shape in behind. So what we'll do is again, we'll say Insert. We'll go to Shapes. We'll pick a rounded rectangle. Again, roughly get it where we want it to be. We'll increase this handle over here and we'll go to Format Shape. If you don't have the tab open there, again, always just right click and you'll see Format Shape here. This time we don't want to fill. We do want a solid line and we want it to be white. And then you can play with the sizing in here, etc. And you'll get it in there. So we might actually change it just so I can see what I'm doing. Change it to orange and I'll increase the size of it. Something like that looks pretty good. Change it back to white. And then we will select this because we want this behind everything. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say send to back. So that's at the back. So the last thing we want to do is, well, we've recreated the image, which is great. The original one is still there. So what I'll do is I'll select that and I'll just delete it. So now we have this newly created image in here ready to go. So the next part is, well, how do we get this as being a PowerPoint slide up into our SharePoint site? So what you'll want to do is you'll want to just select everything and then you'll right click and you'll say group. Okay, so now that acts as one item in here. And now what you can do is you can right click it and you can say save as picture. So I'm going to save it as 3 images. Don't ask me why. So click save. So we have that there. Now we can come back into SharePoint. And when we're here on our page, we'll stick it back into edit mode. And we can simply come down to this image again. We can select it and we'll see here an option for browse images. We just select that. We're going to replace the image with the one we just created. So we'll just say upload. We'll select the 3 images that we just created. I'll say upload again, say add image. And now we've pretty seamlessly swapped out that image. And just to match the look and feel of our site, what we might do is we'll select this section here, come into the settings, we'll go to design and we'll just give it this black background. And then we can just change the color of our text to make it align with what we want, to make it a bit more visible. So I'll change it to automatic and then the same down here for this text. Okay, so very quickly it starts to come together, and it's really the same principles that I'm showing you again and again in terms of PowerPoint anyway to create these images. It's always those shapes, bringing them together, then grouping them, exporting them, and putting them into SharePoint. So you don't necessarily need something like Figma, although I highly recommend it, but it's absolutely accessible to you if you just have PowerPoint to work with. So then we'll come down the page and we've got 3 more images to work with. So again, we have this one, and this one. And it's really the same process again and again. You find the image on the site, you get it to a stage that you can download that image, bring that into PowerPoint, and you use that as your kind of template to work from. So for example, again, if we look at this image, I need to get this to a stage that I can download it. So the handiest way to do it is select the image, go to advanced editing, don't change anything, just click save as a copy, and that saves into the site assets for this page. So I'll do the same with this one, select it, advanced editing, save as copy, and then finally the exact same with this last one. So those images now are saved to site assets. We can download them, bring them into PowerPoint, and we can edit them. So let's have a look at that. Come up to the cog, we'll go to site contents, into site assets, site pages. Again, we'll click our page 1. I still haven't given it a name, just so we can see what we're looking at. We'll come up here, change that to tiles. And now we can see in here, these are the 3 images. So I will select 1, 2, 3, and now I'll download them and bring them into PowerPoint for us to work with. Okay, so we're in PowerPoint. I've pulled the images in that we just downloaded. So now it's time to make our images. So I've got one of these images on each slide. So we'll deal with this one first. And this is kind of what we've done already, right? We're just repeating it. So first thing I want to do is I want to pull in the image that I actually want to use on my site, but in this format. So I have all my images here ready to go. So I'll pull in the first one, which is health cover, which is something like this. Now, all these images here, I used an AI image generator to create them. I think it was called Deep AI. There's millions of them out there. I found it to be very useful and very entertaining to create these images. A couple of prompts gave me these images. So yeah, I don't know. If you're looking for images, that's a good one to create them from. So anyway, so like before, what we want to do is we want to get a shape that basically is the same shape as the image we got from SharePoint. So this is like a rounded rectangle. So I'll come up to Insert, I'll go to Shapes, and I'll find my rounded rectangle. And again, just roughly draw it out, match it up as best you can. And then we can pull this yellow handle all the way to the right, and it gives us that exact shape that we're looking for. So now that we've done that, we don't really need the Microsoft image anymore. So I'll select it and delete it. So now we have our 2 images, okay? So now we want to obviously get them to be the same size. So I'm going to resize this image. I'm going to hold Shift as I drag it, and that maintains its proportions. So I'll pull that into the center here like this. And what we'll do is we'll open up our selection pane, and we want our picture on top of shape, okay, from the last time. And what we'll do is we'll select our picture, Shift, and then we'll select the shape. So we've got them both selected. Then we'll go up to shape format, merge shapes, intersect, and now we have that image exactly as we want. And same as before, now all we have to do is right click. We're going to say save as picture. So I'll save this one as health cover. One thing to note is that save as type, we want this set to PNG, because our shape is kind of that pill shape, and we've got transparent bits, you know, around the pill. So we want to save it as PNG. So we'll do that, click save, job done. On to the next one. So this is a peculiar one, okay? Because we don't necessarily have a shape ready to go within PowerPoint that's going to match what we have here. So if I go to Insert and I go again to Shapes, we have things that come close, but if you want to be, you know, pixel perfect to this, we're going to have to create our own custom shape. A lot easier than it sounds. So if we look at this, really, we could say, well, this is a rectangle, and then it's a quadrant of a circle. So what we'll do is we'll go to Insert Shapes again. First, we'll bring our rectangle, and we'll get it close enough. We won't get too crazy on it, right? So something like that is thereabouts. And now I want to add in another shape. So again, I'll go to Insert and I'll go to Shapes. And then we want something that will give us a piece of a circle, okay? So this one in here looks good. So what I'll do is I'll drag it out and I'll hold Shift. And then we can start playing with these handles just to get the right part of the circle. So if I pull this one right around here, again, close enough is good enough. Something like that is good. And then all we have to do is rotate this around, something like that. And then we can see we're starting to pull our shape together. We'll just zoom out here a little bit and pull this down, bring it across. And we won't go too far wrong with that. So I'll select this shape. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to say format shape. And I'm just going to take the line away from it. And we'll do the same with the shape here, this rectangle. So no line. We have those 2 shapes there. They're close enough, right? Like I said. So then when we have both shapes selected, we'll come up to our merge shapes and we'll say union. And that essentially joins these shapes together, and now they're one shape. Now that's the shape we can use to cut out or crop our picture to. So we'll pull in the second image that we want, which is around our flexible working. So we have it here. Just going to drag it in. Then the same exact as before, we'll just maybe resize this shape to match with our image. And we'll just delete the original image so we can see what we're doing. So we can bring this shape, if we go to our selection pane, we'll bring it to the front. And we can see that we're going to be cutting off the fella's head here, and we want him in the image. So handy way to get around that is if we select the picture and we go to arrange, and we go to rotate, we can flip it horizontally. So if I move this shape out of the way, he's now over this side, which suits us in what we're trying to do. And that way, if we get our shape in here, again, we can pull it in so it's right within the image. We're going to end up with the guy fully in the shape. So I hope you're following along here. It's not too awkward. So over on our selection pane, again, if you don't have that, come up to arrange and click selection pane. We want our picture up top and our shape down below. So we have our picture selected, then we'll select our shape. And then we'll come over to shape format, merge shapes, and we'll say intersect. And now we get this perfect cutout, which matches what we were going for in the first place. Same as before, right click it, save as picture, make sure it's a PNG, and we'll move on to the next one. So again, for the last one, this is probably the simplest one. I won't put you through it. Just repeat the steps again, create your shape and use that to crop your image, save it down, and away you go. Once you've done that, back into SharePoint, and now we can just replace these images exactly like we did with this image here, and you're ready to go. So let's update the site and pop in these images. So I'll put the page into edit mode. And then here for this image, I'll just select it, go to browse images. We go upload. I'll pick my health cover PNG, add it in, and it will directly replace the image that was in there. Perfect. Do the same with our wellness. So select the image, go browse images, pop it in, and you're good to go. And now I'll just do the exact same with the last image. And then just like that, we have our images in and it's coming together nicely. Next is going to be to come down to these icons and what are we going to do with them. But before we do, this bit up here is actually bugging me because that image isn't right and we can see that he's been cut off. So I actually did manage to find my original image after all. So I'm just going to pop it in here. So I'm going to select the background, over here to properties, go to design, change background. I'm going to upload, have my image here, pop it in like so. Looks better already, I think. And I'm going to change this gradient. I'm going to go from bottom to top. And what that will allow me to do will kind of obscure the fact that he's cropped there. So that looks good. Happy enough with that. And through the magic of editing, I've also updated the content. So we are good to go. So the next thing that we're going to look at is the iconography on the site and how we can make our own again within PowerPoint. So if we pop down here, we can see we have these icons in here. Now, it just so happens that the red that's in here does suit the site. So I could leave them if I wanted to, but I'm going to hedge my bets and say that you might want a different color. So what can we do about that? Well, let's go back into PowerPoint. So in PowerPoint, there's actually an icon library in here, but they're SVG icons. So basically that just means that we can change the color of them for anything that we want. So for example, if I went up here to insert, I have an option for icon and I can come in here and I can search for any icon. So let's just say we pick these glasses, I pop them in here, I can resize it any amount that I want, and I can go into format graphic and I can change the color. If I want it red, we have red. So that's a way that you can come in here and get your icons, save them down as an image and add them to the site. I don't really like this interface for looking for icons. It's a bit too squashed. So you can always right click on an icon once you've added one, and you could say change graphic and you can say from icons. That's going to give you a much nicer interface to browse these icons and find what you want. So going back to our site, we want these icons in here. So we have a bonus scheme, annual leave entitlement, professional development, and employee recognition program. So these Sith lads are well on point. So we want this fist icon. Let's start with that first. And we're putting them in a consistent style where we have this background in here. So we keep that for them all. So let me show you how I did that really quickly. So in here, I'm actually just going to search for fist. And we have two options in here. I'm going to choose this one. I'm going to say insert. So that comes in like that. That's perfect. Just what we want. And now I want a shape behind it. So I'm going to say insert. I'm going to say shapes. I'm going to pick the hexagon. I'll bring it in here. So I'll just draw it and I'll hold shift so it'll keep the proportions. And I want to actually rotate it. So I'll bring it like that. I'll bring up the selection pane. So I have it over here open, but if you didn't, you'll see it's this kind of icon in here. If you're in shape format, you'll see it here front and center. So you'll get used to this selection pane. It's very handy. So when we have that in there, I can pull the hexagon behind the graphic and I can just kind of position it somewhere in along here. You'll see the guides pop up in a kind of a faint red. So the icon is good as it is. We leave it red and now we'll just format this background. So very simply, all we do is we select the hexagon. In terms of solid fill, we'll give it a black color, and then we might just change the line to white, and we can increase the width of that a bit. Now, obviously we can't really see the width of the white line because we're on a white background. So if you're going to place your icons on some other background, it's handy just to change the color of the background in the slide so that you can see roughly what it's going to look like. So in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to design, format background, and we're going to go for a solid fill, and I'm going to change it to my red color because I know I'm going to pop these on a red background. And then we can see it comes in like this, and this is handy. So once you've created your first icon, okay, what we'll do is we'll select them, and then we'll right click and we'll say group. And now this is ready to bring into your site as an icon image. You just right click on it and say save as picture, and you're ready to go. Handy way to do the next one is if I copy and paste this icon in here, because the only thing we want to change is the icon itself. This kind of background template is fine. So we select the group, click in again, so we're selecting the icon, right click, and again, just say change graphic, and from icons, and then you can find the next one that you want to put in. So looking back at our site, we want this annual leave beach umbrella icon. So I'm going to type in here beach, and here is the icon here. I'll select it, say insert. We have it in here, comes in a bit odd. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag it down a little bit to resize it, and something like that looks good. So very quickly we have our second icon. It's already grouped, ready to save as a picture. So that's the same rinse and repeat. You just do this for how many icons you really need, and this will keep it the nice consistent style. But again, I won't put you through the boredom of watching me do it. That's how you do it. Save your icons and then bring them into your site. So let's go back to our site and add in these icons. So what we'll do is back in our site, I'm going to select the section. I'm going to go to design, and I want to give it the red background color. So you can see here, if we were changing our brand around, these icons instantly don't work against the red background. So what I'll do is I'll select this first icon here, and I'm going to go browse images, and this is where I'm going to upload the icon that I've saved and created. I'll say upload, select my icon, and say add image, and it comes in like this, well too big, so I can just resize my icon to what I'm happy with, and then I will reposition it above the text, and we're good to go. So you just rinse and repeat that for each of these icons. I'll do one more and then leave the rest up to your imagination. So select the icon image in here, say browse images, upload, select my icon, say add image, and we can just resize it and then drag it into position. Something like that is fine. And then you just do the same for the others, which I'll do right now, but you don't have to watch me do it. And so just like that, I've added in the rest of the icons. I've updated the text, so this section is working well. The last thing in this page is this section down here. So all that we're going to do is in our design, we'll change it to a black background. We'll remove this background that Microsoft popped in here. So we have this, and then we have the image here. And this again is another case where, you know, if we want a character on a colored background like this, we can get the original picture of the character, remove them, pop them onto a background within PowerPoint. Or actually, this would be a good opportunity to show you how to remove the background. So we have this image in here, so we want to replace that with our image. And if we look at what we want to end up with, if we come back to the demo site, we can see this Admiral fella in here, looking slightly worried, but we'll use them anyway. So I found that source image. Obviously, I had to have it to begin with. So it looks something like this, okay? So what we can do is we can go to the Adobe Express website, and I'll show you how that works. So here I am in Adobe Express. I'm not signed in or anything like that. This is free to use. I'm just an anonymous person here, so you can do it too. And all I want to do is get my file, that Admiral fella, so this guy here, and I'm going to drag him and I'm going to pop him in here, and Adobe's going to do its thing. So it's working on the file there, and it's already removed the background. So, you know, simple as that. So then I just download the file, come back into PowerPoint, and I just bring that in here. So here he is in here, looking good. So we want him cropped into a circle, but we also want a colored background behind him. So all we're going to do is insert a shape. We're going to pick a circle. We're going to try and fit it in as best we can with what we want. So if we have something like that, we're not going to miss that out of the picture. So we'll do that like that. And I'm just going to copy and paste this circle again, because one of them is going to be used for cutting the guy out, and the other one's going to be used for the background. So let's say this one is the background. I'm going to right click, format shape, and in solid fill, we can choose that yellowy kind of a color. I don't want the line. So this is going to be what's behind our fella. And then over here, I'm going to open up my selection pane again. So I can see I have this oval and I have the picture. Now what we know from all the repetition is we want our picture in front of the shape. Select the picture, then select the shape, come up here to shape format, merge shapes, intersect, and now we have him cut out. So now we have this oval, bring it behind our new picture, and then we can just bring it over here, line it up, and that's good to go. Now we can select all of this, right click, turn it into a group, right click again, save as picture, and there you go, you have that, and you can upload it to your site, and then you'll have exactly what I had, which ends up being something like this. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So with our page saved and published, we end up with something like this, which I think looks pretty on brand. I think we hit the mark with making it look very Sith-esque or themed. We have employee benefits, very strong striking header area. We've replicated the images from the template, albeit with our images. So we've all these lovely Sith fellas looking all happy with their benefits. We have some nice icons, and we have the worried looking fella down here who has to take all the complaints. So I think job done on this one. So now let's move on to the next template. They'll be quicker after this, okay? Because we've covered a lot of ground in this one template. Okay, so the next request we've got is that the Sith want to have a training hub within their intranet, and they've pointed me towards this template here, which looks lovely, nice and bright and corporate, but it doesn't quite fit their look and feel. So what I've come up with is, if I come over here to our demo site, I've got this in here, which is much more in keeping with their look and feel. So we have mastering the dark arts of corporate excellence. And then we come down the page, and then we have all of the various courses that you might want to take if you're an aspiring Sith. So straightforward enough, right? The main thing that we're doing here is we're creating this image up top, okay? That's really what we want to do. So obviously for this, you'll want to have an image of a person that you want to feature here, and you want to remove the background from them. That's a consistent thing that we're doing here. So I have this guy in here, and I'll show you how you can put him on one of these backgrounds and make it pretty seamless. So surprise, surprise, we're going back into PowerPoint for this one. So here in PowerPoint, I've pulled in the picture of the guy I want to have in the picture. I might just resize him a little bit, make him a bit smaller. And what we want to do is, well, for this, we want to insert a kind of a corporate background. We want to blur it out a little bit. So PowerPoint will let us do that. So if we go to Insert, and we go to Pictures, and we go Stock Images, get a very similar library to what we have available to us within SharePoint. So if I say Office, and again, I hate looking at the images and something like this, so I'll just pick any random one, and I'll insert it for the moment, and then I can right click on it, change picture from Stock Images, and I just get this nicer interface to look at. So we'll say Office background, and we get some options in here, and I will choose this one. So I'll say Insert, which looks good. And now again, I can go to my selection pane, and I'll bring the picture below my happy looking Sith fella in here, and we'll have them somewhere like that. But the positioning that we put this person in here, we want to kind of match what was on the site. So we can do the same trick we did before of basically editing the image, not change anything, saving a copy so we can bring it into Photoshop and we can line things up. So we'll do that now. So coming back over to our site, we can use this template on the site, and that's going to create the page with the image in it. It's great. So we'll just select this section in here. We'll come over to Properties, we'll go to Design, and here where we have the background, we'll say Advanced Editing. We won't change anything, but all we'll do is say Save a Copy. And we'll just call this page Training Hub and save and close. And now we'll go into Site Assets and download that image. So up to the cog, Site Contents, into Site Assets, Site Pages, and we can come in here, find this image and just download it. And then when we drag it into PowerPoint, now we can start to match things up a bit. So I'll just resize the image a little bit. So this is what we have to work with. We're going to match this up as best we can. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to get my picture from the selection pane of my happy looking Sith character. And I'm just going to match him up roughly with what we have in here. So something like that looks good. And when I save this as an image, I don't want him sticking out the bottom. So I can select this guy, I can go to crop, and then I can just crop the bottom to the bottom line of that picture. Click crop again, now he's cropped into place. Now the other image that we had below, I'll pull that above the picture we just downloaded. And again, I'm just going to resize it to match the picture we got from SharePoint, and I will crop it again so it matches what we have. So hit crop, bring it right up to the bottom of the other picture. You'll see the red dotted kind of guide popping up there. So just go to that. Crop again, so we're looking good. So this is what we want. Now we want this guy in focus, but we don't want this background in focus. So what we can do is we can right click on the picture and we can say Format Picture. And in the options that we have here, we're going to choose this one at the end that says Picture. And in Picture Corrections, we can come to Sharpen or Soften, okay? And all that we're going to do is we're going to decrease the sharpness, okay? And that's effectively going to blur the image for us. So this guy will be nice and focused, but our background image will be blurred. So you could use this with any image if you want to have that kind of short focal length effect where the person is nice and crisp and clear, but the background is kind of blurred, kind of what I tried to achieve here. So what we'll do is we have that there, we're all happy. I will actually delete the Microsoft image from my selection pane. Now I'll just select both of these guys here, right click and say group. And now I'm going to right click again, save as picture, bring it down and then bring it into SharePoint, and then we're good to go. So back here in my training hub, I'll put the page back into edit mode. I'll select the top section, go to its properties, go to design, and now I can change background and upload that background that we just created. So upload, select my image, and I'll say upload again. Now we can add the image in, and now things are looking nice and Sith-like, I suppose. Again, you can play with these various overlays on the backgrounds. We could, example, go for this dark gradient, and we could go left to right, and then we can just increase it so it looks good with the text here, and you're kind of good to go. The rest of the stuff on this page is kind of stuff that you don't really need Photoshop for. I just had these additional images that I created with AI, and I changed the layout of the web part. I'll show you one, and then it's kind of the same again and again. Obviously, you're not going to use pictures of images with people in cloaks. You'll use images that make sense for you. So we'll come back in here, and all I'm doing is the same web part. I'm just changing its settings. So if we go to edit properties of the web part, I've generally changed them to split. So that obviously makes it bigger. So we'll just get this one and we'll pull it down out of the way. Pull this down out of the way also. And in here, I want this section to be dark. So I'm going to change the background to this dark. And then up here in the image, change image, and upload one of my images. So we'll choose this one for customer service, add in the image. It comes in like that. And then you can see from here, it's just a case of editing the text. So that's all I've done with these. I won't repeat it, right? Because that's not the point of this video, but that's all you have to do. And then quickly you're getting to a stage where the site is, started from the template. We're still using all the good work Microsoft has done, but now we're at a stage that we can make it our own and align it to whatever branding we want. You can play around with text colors or any of that kind of stuff, and you're good to go. So now let's move on to the next template. The next page that we need to create is around employee recognition. So the Sith guys have said they want to celebrate a specific employee for an outstanding contribution to their galactic domination efforts, I suppose we'll say. So it just so happens there's an employee recognition page template within the gallery, which looks something like this. So in here, we are celebrating Clarissa Wolf, and she has a nice photo shoot in there. So we need to create the Sith or dark side version of this. And to be honest, I just couldn't really resist the opportunity to create some funny AI images. So what we're going to end up is this. We're celebrating Darth Maul, and he was kind enough to give us a nice, rather sexy photo shoot of all his cheeky poses in here. So that's what we're going to use in this page. So we'll get to it. So into our pages gallery here, we're going to say use this template. Now, a lot of what we need to do in here, we've already kind of done in the other pages. Again, it's the same thing again and again, and you'll get really quick at it and really used to it. This, we want to get pictures of whoever it is that we're celebrating. We'll remove the background, bring it into Photoshop, put in another background, and we can crop it there, and we're good to go. Now up here, we have this nice effect, this banner up here. Now, unless your branding or teaming happens to be this green, that probably won't work for you, so you'll have to swap it out. But if you do want something like this, the style of image is called Bokeh or Bokeh, I don't know, B-O-K-E-H, however you pronounce that. And a way you can create one of these fairly simply with any of your brand colors is there's a website free to use you can go to. It is called duotone.shapefactory.co. I'll put it down below. But basically you can come in here, and what this will let you do is specify 2 colors, and then it'll take any image and it'll kind of rejig it with those colors. So if we come in here, it'll allow you to search Unsplash for an image. So if I type in bokeh or bokeh, whatever you say it, we get that kind of image styled with our colors. So that's what I'm going to use to replace that image up top in the style we want. And then it's a case of really just picking whatever you think looks best. So I might, for example, use this image here. So I click it and it blows it up, and then I can just click download, and then I'll get that ready to use. So now that we have that image, we'll come back into our site and we'll start playing around with this. So I'm going to select this section up here. I'm going to come to the properties, and in design, I'm going to come to the background, change the background, and I'm going to upload that image I just downloaded. We have it in here like this. I'm going to say add image. We have it in here like this, and we can apply some overlays and gradients and that kind of stuff if we want. I think I will just use the dark from the bottom to the top, and I will increase it. Now we could of course advanced edit this image if we want. So we could really zoom it in so we're in tight on that effect, something like that. Maybe I can say save. We'll save it again. And then we've got this close-up of it in here. Now this stuff in here is mainly just text. We've got this image back here, which is a semi-transparent white background image, which will work fine for what we're doing here. In here, we can't see it here because we're on the black background, but if I move it up, they've actually got employee of the month and it's an image, so it's just text. So in PowerPoint, what we can do is we'll create a new slide and then we can insert a text box and we can just type in employee of the month. We can select the text, and when we come to home, we can select any of the kind of more cursive styles that we want if we want to replicate something like that. So I think I'm going to choose a different type of font. I'm going to go for Bauhaus 93, whatever. So I'm going to select the text. I might just increase the font size quite a bit. I will change the font color to white so we can see it on our black background. And then similar to before, I just select this, right click and save as picture, and we can save that font down. So back into our site, all I'm going to do is I'm going to select employee of the month here, and I'm going to say browse images, and I'm going to upload that image I just saved. And it comes in like that, and then I can just drag it down over the black and it's readable. So you can do that kind of thing if you want some weird and quirky font that you don't have installed on your site. So that's fairly simple. So now we want to get our Darth Maul images in here. Now, while we have been cropping some of our images to those irregular shapes, SharePoint will let you upload an image and crop it to, say, a circle or even this teardrop shape. So what we'll do is we'll take our Darth Maul images and we'll keep them square or whatever way they are, and we'll put a background behind them, we'll save them, and then we'll bring them into here and let SharePoint do the cropping. So we'll go back into PowerPoint, and I've got all my images of Darth Maul in here, and they still make me laugh every time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a background behind them with just different colors, just to make it a bit more colorful. So I'll say insert shape. I'll choose a square this time, and all I'm going to do is crop my images to the square. So I'll use this size. I'll copy it again. So one is going to be for the crop, and the other one is going to be for the background color. So I'll select the image here, so I see it in here, and I'll bring it up to the top. And then I have this rectangle here, and I'll bring that just below my image. So I'll select the image first, then the rectangle. You know how this goes, shape, format, merge shapes, and we'll say intersect. So now we have that as a nice square. I'm going to copy and paste this square because I'm going to use it again and again. So I'll bring this one up here, bring it below my picture, and now I can just give that a color. So if I wanted it to be a purple, for example, it's in there like that, and we'll just make sure we've no outline. And then that's all good to go. So I'll select it, right click it and group it, and then save it as a picture. And then we can go back into SharePoint and I'll show you how we can use SharePoint to crop the images. So back into SharePoint, we'll start with this image here. So I'm going to select it, I'm going to browse images, and I'm going to upload my first Darth Maul image. So here is my first image. I'll say add image, and we have it as a square, but I can select an image. I can come to shape, drop down, and I can change it to a teardrop shape, and that'll crop it like that. So we can do the same with all of our other images. I'll just upload one more. So I'll go to browse images, upload, choose my next image, and I'll say add image. And while it's a square here, I can always come in here and crop it to a circle. And now we get that effect in here. And so I'll just repeat that with these images in here, and we'll be back in a second. And just like that, we have the images in there. Now, if we go back to the example site, we have this image behind of Darth Maul here, which I just thought looked pretty cool. So what we want to do with that is we want to have the image that goes across these three sections, but SharePoint doesn't allow us to do that. So we got to bring all of these into the one section. So what I'll do is I'll add in a new section here, and I'll make it a flexible section. And then I can just take this text box and I can drag it up. And then I can select all of these images and I'll keep them as a group. So I'll come in here and I'll say group. So now I can move them all at once, and I will drag them up into this section as well. We don't need this section now, so I'll just delete it, and I'll delete this section. And now we can bring our quote and bring it up into this section as well. We'll pull this down a little bit, and we can just space things out. And now we don't need this section either, so we'll just delete that. And now we can come into this section, we can go to design. First of all, we'll make it dark so it blends nicely with the top section. And then we can come into add a background, and then we can upload whatever picture we want. And then we have something that looks pretty cool in there like that, so we are good. Come back over to our demo site, and then we have a section in here which is about the feedback, which is just basically this section here where I've taken the background here, come to design, and I will remove this background because we fit what we want. And all I did was I just formatted the text. So I won't put you through having to watch me do that. And in the section below, we come down here and we're going to go to design, and we're just going to change it to our red color. Then remove the image that SharePoint has added, take off the comments, And then that's effectively it for that template. So nice and easy. And of course, I forgot to update the name of the person we're actually celebrating. So let's fix that really quick. So edit the page, much better. So now we have this lovely page where we're celebrating Darth Maul and we've all the good stuff about him, you know, that he's doing to contribute to the galactic takeover. So then the final template we'll look at is going to be a project roadmap update, which looks something like this from the template gallery. Now, of course, this doesn't match what the Sith have done. They want to brag about how brilliant they're doing with taking over everything. So we need to change this. We need to make it look dark and ominous. And that's what we'll do. So we'll take this template. The idea is we're going to turn it into something that looks like this. So much more on brand. So we've got our galactic propaganda campaign update, all the good stuff we've done, all of our metrics in here. Darth Maul is making another appearance in here. We come down, we have the timeline, where as before, it was this kind of orangey color. We can change it to red. Now these are individual images, so we'll quickly create these little pinpoints in PowerPoint and bring them in. And everything else is fairly straightforward. The last thing we'll really do that we need PowerPoint for is to take full color images and desaturate them so we get a black and white effect. So we'll get something like this. So let's get into it. So what we're going to do is we're going to say use this template, which will create the page on our site. And if we look back at our demo site, we see that we have this image here in the background, and it actually goes across this top content, the header, and then this content in here. Whereas on our template, these are separate sections. So what we will do is we'll bring them into one section. So I'll bring this section down, and then I'll bring this text up above here. And then we have this divider web part. We'll also bring that up as well. And now we can come over to this section up here, click anywhere, go to our properties, go to design, come down here. We're going to change the background and we're going to upload that image of the lightsaber and the helmet. I have the image here ready to go. I'll say add image. And what we might just do is we'll edit the focal point so we get the helmet fully into the image. So I'll move that there and I'll click save. We can also increase the opacity just so the text is fully legible. We definitely want that. The next thing that we want is we have this red, well, it's kind of an orangey color in here, circle, and it's an image. So we want to change that. We want our own red one. We can quickly do that. PowerPoint, as we know. So in PowerPoint, all we're going to do is we're going to say insert. We'll go for a shape. We just need a circle. Pop it in here like this. We'll take the outline off the shape and we'll change the color of the shape to a red color. And now we can just select the shape, right click it, save it as a picture, and you know the rest at this stage. So once I have that saved, I'll come back to the site and we can select the image here and we go to browse images, upload, select the image we just saved down and we'll say add image. Now this Q4 is kind of, looks like it's outside here, but when I republish the page, it'll be more in the circle. You just have to have a bit of faith on this one. So then coming down the page, we don't need this section anymore, so let's delete it. And now we just want to address this section. There's not a whole lot we have to do in here. What I will do is in here, again, I'm going to go to design. I'll remove this background and I'm just going to use our black background. And all I really did in here was I wanted to bring our red into it. So you'll probably want to do something similar to bring your team colors in. So I'll just change the text of the big ticket item in each of the metrics. So for example, I'll select this 1 million, hit the 3 dots here. I'll come down to font color and I will apply my red color. So basically I'll just do the same for all of them. So now that we have that done, and then we're just going to add in another image in here. We're going to bring in that picture of Darth Maul in the background. So I'll select here, I'll go to my toolbox, I'll add in an image web part, and I'm just going to upload that image again. So add it in like this, and then we can just size it however we want. We can bring it up like that. Now we want it behind everything. So we can basically have the image selected, come up here and say send to back. What we might also do is on the properties of the image, we don't want this image clickable. So what I will just say is mark as decorative, and then nobody can interact with it. And then that's essentially it for that section in there. So then coming down to the timeline, what I want to do is I want to remove that creamy colored background. So I'll go to design and I will remove it from in here. And what's next? I will also remove it from in there. And then we come back over to our demo site. We pop down here. And all we really want to do is recolor these items in here. So let's pop into PowerPoint. So in PowerPoint, again, all I want to do is insert and I want to go to shape. And we actually have something that's fairly close to a pin. So I'll pop it in here like this, hold shift to keep it nice and proportional. I'll rotate it around. And again, I'm going to give it the shape fill and no shape outline. And now, just like we've done a billion times on this video, I'm going to select the shape, right click, and I'm going to say save as picture. So we'll come in here, we'll select each pin in turn, select it as the image, browse images, and we're going to upload our pin. that here. I'll say add image, and in it goes, and now we have the nice red color. So I'll just do the same for all the others. So they're updated now, that's good to go. What I would also do in here is I would change the color of this text in here. Again, it's not the right red. Finicky like me, or if you don't want to get choked out by the old Sith, we might want to update them and make it our red color of our team. And don't do what I just did and change all of the text, because then you'll have to change it back. So let me update the red to the proper red and change this back to black text. So we've updated the text colors to what they should be, so we're good to go. So then coming down here, again, important links, I would just come in here, properties, design, remove that image, add in our red, and that's pretty much it. I think the alignment is shocking here, so I would probably just bring them down. Sure, I might as well do it while I'm here, so I'll just bring this down, and that comes in like that. Perfect. So when we come down to these images in here, okay, first of all, we'll change the background, because that will just annoy me. So I'll remove that out of there, so we're white in here. And now we want to change these images. So I'll come into Photoshop and show you how to desaturate your images. You might have headshots of people, and if you want them in black and white, this is basically how you're going to do it. So here I have all my images in PowerPoint. Now, if your images aren't in this right shape, you know how to do it now. You're going to create a rectangle shape. Follow what we did in the previous examples, and you'll get to this point. So when you are at this point and you want to make these desaturated, basically, you're just going to select an image, and in picture format underneath color, drop this down, and you have some options in here. So one of them is saturation for 0%. So you do that, and all of a sudden you have a black and white image. So we can just select all of the other images and do the exact same thing. And now we have these black and white versions of the images. So you're just going to right click, save as picture, and then we upload them into SharePoint. And you're done. So I won't make you watch me do them all. We'll just do the first one. So we'll pick this image here. I'm going to say browse images, upload, select the image we just saved. It will say add image. And now you have your version of the black and white images all on the page. So looking back at our demo site, you're going to end up with something like this. Good to go. So that's kind of effectively it for this page as well. So hopefully you've seen, as we've gone through the 4 examples, and it's not been too painful to watch me do it, you can use PowerPoint to really make these templates what you want to be. You can really take these templates and still keep the good that's in them, the style that's been put into them, but recreate the images and assets in what suits you and your brand. If we take a step back and look at the various different templates side by side, they don't have a consistent look and feel through them. Like, you can pop all of these into your sites, but it's very hard to pick out the branding that's consistent between the lot of them, because it's not, okay? They're just different styles there to give you examples. But we can take these templates and then we can turn them into a consistent style that works across the intranet. So the pages that we built, these are what they look like when you look at them as a group or a collection. And you can see that the branding and design is very consistent throughout. I mean, they do look like they belong to a Sith version of an intranet. But again, we started with the templates and used nothing more than PowerPoint. You saw me do it. We've been able to create these really striking, I think, and I'm biased, but striking looking pages. So that's it. I'll come off my high horse now. Hopefully you learned something from the video. If you did, like and subscribe, all the usual stuff. And if you didn't, well, sorry. I hope you found it entertaining at the very least. So yeah, there you go. Have fun with it. Until the next time, see ya.